Good evening. My name is Jorge Bermudez, and we will be conducting a code review for capstone course CS 499 for Southern New Hampshire University. This code review is going to consist of reviewing 3 different artifacts. The final project for this capstone is going to require enhancements of 3 artifacts based on 3 different focuses. The first focus, which we'll be reiterating as we start the initial discussing the first artifacts code review. The first focus is going to be software design and engineering. The second focus is going to be algorithms and data structures. And last but not least, the last focus is going to be databases. Now we'll just get started right here with main activity.java. Just to give a quick overview of what the intent of this app was. It was to ultimately have an app that has a login page. The app commences a weight tracking app. And so it has a login page, username and password. You can either create an account, or if you're an existing user, once you log in, you go into the data display activity interface, or UI, if you will, where it allows the user to input their weight connected to a date, obviously connected to their account. And it also allows them to see over time their different inputs in a table manner of their weight, so they can track their weight over time. What I have noticed with this is that there's a little bit of a logistical error, as we will see as we go through this, that creates a loop, a never-ending loop that doesn't allow the user to actually get to the weight tracking portion of it, and to input data or visualize data. And this obviously will be corrected as we conduct the enhancement of the artifact. So first, what we have here is the public class main activity extends app compat activity. This, which is what declares the main activity class that inherits from app compat activity, which provides compatibility support for older Android versions. Then we have the private button, login button. This is the button that is going to be located. It's just going to allow the user to log in. We also have another variable declared, which is the permission request, send SMS. This is just, this is just normal now for users, obviously on cell phones, where it requests permission for the user to provide SMS permission, to grant permission for the app to conduct the actions that it has to conduct inside and utilize the cell phone's capability. So once we go in here, we have the set content view r.layout.activity main. And here, this is what sets the layout for the activity, which utilizes the XML file activity underscore main. And then we also have the login button, which is that connects the login button to the UI element of the Java code. It's right here. This is that. Then we have the set on click listener, which is the listener that is waiting for the user to click the login button, right? As it says right here in the information, which registers a callback to be invoked when this view is clicked. If this view is not clickable, then it becomes clickable, right? Then we continue here and we see the intent, right? We have here intent creates a new intent, which has main activity.this and login activity.class, which starts the activity intent. which basically what this is that creating an intent to switch from main activity to login activity, right? So this is what creates that connectivity from main activity and it goes right into login activity. And we will soon, let me see, I think it's, if I click on this, it allows me to visualize it. No, never mind. It connects directly to login activity. As we can see here, we will discuss login activity. So this app is going to contain main activity.java, login activity, data display activity, database helper, and data adapter. These are all going to be part of the whole app. The main artifact enhancements are, while they are going to occur entirely on all of them in order to, but the main effort is going to be the main activity. They will all be discussed, especially also database helper, because that is one of the artifacts enhancements that has to do with databases. So that one I won't get too much into right now, but we will be discussing it in depth later on. As we continue through here, it has the start activity as well, which launches the login activity when the login button is clicked. Then it has the send notifications, which checks. This is what checks if the permission is granted. This starts this whole. It handles the notification sending, which checks for SMS permission. This was all of this does, and then if the permission is granted, then that notification is sent. Then, if else, that it requests the SMS permission from the user, right? So if it was already granted, then that notification is immediately sent. If not, then it requests it. Then we have this is the send SMS notification, which is the code to send it. This just has the toast right now, that sending the SMS notification just to send it to the user. That is, it's showcasing that notification is going through. Then we have on request permission. Right, on request permission, right, which this is if the SMS permission is granted, then the SMS notification is sent. If not, then the SMS permission is denied. So the user is provided an explanation as to why it is important to have this permission, right? That the app requires this permission in order to have full functionality and to be to run smoothly. If not, then the user permanently denied permission, right? Then that is what shows the permission denied dialog, and it shows that custom dialog that is shown here. This is the permission, what it's called, right? So, excuse me. This is what shows the as we show here, show permission explanation dialog, right? And it's Haskell says titled SMS permission required, and it sets the message. This app requires permission to send SMS messages in order to send notifications. It's just explaining to the user why this is done. And it also tells them, hey, you can go to settings and have it done just like a regular phone shows with different apps. And then we also have the permission denied, right, which shows the SMS permission is denied. SMS permission has been permanently denied, so the SMS notification feature will be disabled. This is all just doing what we have normally seen with phones and different apps and how they run. So next we move on to login activity. So in login activity, we are going to see, right, so there are the username and password edit text. We have the login button, the create account button. We also have the database helper over here, because this is what it ultimately is supposed to connect. I think I'm going to try and run it just to show the visualization of the issue that I encountered here, right? Let me see. Right, so as we see here, it's going to start the app. It's creating this emulation. I'm going to start the app. I'm trying to see if it'll work. Seems like it is running. No, because it's trying to run data display. I'm trying to run login activity. There we go. There we go. So let's see if it now. Yeah. So now it shows the login activity, right? So that is this page. Okay. Hopefully it doesn't give me any more errors. But as we have here, here's the username, edit text, password, edit text. As we have here, you're going to see, we're going to see here, right, the on create. This is what's going to have that, what is getting that information set on click listener, right? This is what we have here. The username, edit text goes into username, password, edit text goes into password. We have it here, and I will come up with, let's see if I can create one. Sox fan. I'm a Red Sox fan, so I'm just going to put that there. 45. And then password 12345. And then we have that. That is not an account that has been created, right? So it's going to show that invalid username and password as we seek here, right? So if the database helper, which is being called, checks username and password, which was put in here, and it is not successful, then it immediately goes, it's seeing here. So since this doesn't check with the database, then what it does here is moves on to the else, and it creates that toast, which immediately says that the invalid username or password. So we will move on to create the account, right? So we have here, I don't know if it actually said it. I don't remember if I saw it, but once you click on it, it's going to be, please enter your username and password. So now we will go here. This is where the account creating the account, right? So I created the account is created successfully, right? So in this case, if that information is not put in, then fail to create account, right? So we commence, if we leave this empty and we try to create an account, please enter username and password, right? If we put 1 and 1, I don't know if it'll create an account. Oh, I guess it does still create the account. So those are potentially some things that could be modified to ensure that the right information is being put in there and that it is more secure. But also, let's see if we can put the previous information, and then we go into login, right? So the login was successful, but as we can see here, here is the logistical issue, the loop issue that we are seeing, right? Which is that as we are seeing here, when it is clicking set on click listener, it starts everything, or the create account button, not the create account button, but the login button. What is happening here is that it starts activity intent, but I believe that it is not actually connecting to the data display activity class. And then when it starts activity intent here, it doesn't actually move on from the login activity into the data display activity once this logging is successful. And instead of just finishing, it actually just finishes the login activity and it returns to main activity. Yeah, so what we have here, I believe there's an issue in this one. And that is what creates the issue. It just creates an ultimate loop, which doesn't allow it to get to the data display activity. So this is something that's going to be enhanced as we move through. I'm going to go into the data display activity. This is where this needs to be. This is what's going to be shown to the user, right? It's going to allow that data to be shown, but it is going to be taken. All of this information is going to be taken from the user is going to be allowed here to input data, right? Which all of this information goes into the database helper, which is the main one. I'm not going to cover database helper as much. The reason is because all of this, I'm going to cover it in depth in the last artifact that is going to be dealing with databases. So as you can see, some of the artifact changes that are going to be made, right, for software design. So it is creating a more fluid and secure login activity that flows right into the data display activity. Let me go. I'm sorry, I'm verifying my notes here. Right, so what we have here is that if we go back to it, the intended behavior is that after launching the app, the user should be able to log in with username and password. If successful, be taken to a screen to input their weight and date. Have those entries saved and shown in a table for tracking. For tracking, and then, but the problem that we're having, the current broken behavior is that after logging, the app loops back to main activity instead of continuing to the data entry screen. There is no working flow to input weight or date after login, and the UI might be missing logic to maintain session state or track the active user, right? Because the intent is to make that connection between the data that is being currently entered into the, and also with the historical data for that user, for that account, right? And that is something that we are going to be modifying and ensuring. The enhancement plan, what we intend to do is fix the navigation. So in login activity, we change the redirect so it's sent to the user to data display activity, not back to main activity, which is going to be in that code intent, and creating that new intent login activity.dis data display activity.class. Right, so in here is verifying this, which I believe is the main issue. And it could also be that the data display activity is just not ready to receive it, so I haven't actually created it in a way that it's showcasing it. So that's something that I'm going to verify too. Call finish after starting new activity to prevent looping back. So start activity intent, which we have here, and then finish. Right, we added that. Update main activity to check if a user is already logged in, right? Which this is, this will be done. Store a flag like is logged in, right? And if it's true, then in shared preferences, if true, then it skips the login activity and moves right into the data display activity. And there's something just to create that flow, easier flow, right? So apps that are running in the background, ensuring that it allows that if you are still logged in, you don't have to go through that process again, creating just tedious repetition or unnecessary repetition. And then enable a weight input in data display activity that we are going to be doing by adding a dialog to capture the weight and date, saving data in the database using database helper. What is this all going to do? So this enhances the structure, so it fixes the broken app flow. It enhances the functionality by implementing missing core feature, which is the weight input. And user experience, it improves it by preventing confusing restarts and login loops. And then the code quality, it makes login logic purposeful instead of redundant. And this meets the criteria here as per trying to get our original enhancement plan that was approved. If I may. Yes, I have it here. Okay, so if we have here, this is the intent of this is to design, develop, and deliver professional quality oral, written, and visual communications that are coherent, technically sound, and appropriately adapted to specific audiences and contexts. Demonstrate an ability to use well-founded and innovative techniques, skills, and tools in computing practices for the purpose of implementing computer solutions that deliver value and accomplish industry-specific goals. And develop a security mindset that anticipates adversarial exploits in software architecture and designs to expose potential vulnerabilities, as we talked about in the login. I believe that's a huge vulnerability that this app contains. Let me go into the checklist if I can find it. Just verify against this checklist. Right. So does the code completely incorrectly implement the design? It partially, right? That login functionality works, but it crashes after successful login due to incomplete activity transition. Does the code conform to any pertinent coding standards? Mostly conforms, but lacks some naming consistency. Is the code well structured, consistent in style? It needs improvement, inconsistent formatting and variable naming. Are there any uncalled for or unneeded procedures or any unreachable code? No unreachable code, but unneeded lines, such as unused variables. Are there any leftover stubs or test routines in the code? No. Can any code be replaced by calls to external reusable components? Some utility methods validation could be abstracted into reusable components. Are there any blocks of repeated code that could be condensed into a single procedure? Yes, login logic is repeated and could be modularized. Is storage use efficient? Memory usage is acceptable for small scale use. Are symbolics used rather than magic number, constants, or string context? Magic numbers are used for field validation. Symbolic constants are needed. Are any modules excessively complex and could be restructured or split into multiple routines? Main activity could be simplified and responsibilities better divided. Is the code clearly and adequately documented with an overview with comments for data, declarations, and code section? Some inline comments exist, but lack of high-level documentation. That is something that we really need to modify for this one. Ensure that we are covering all of that. Are the code's inputs and outputs formats correct? Basic IO is working, but edge cases are not handled. Are all possible input values handled correctly? Invalid inputs, empty fields not fully handled. Is the code sufficiently modularity? Code logic is tightly coupled. Can any modules be reused in any other applications? Some components can be reused, like validation and intent launching. Are all the data structures and variables used efficiently? Basic variables used efficiently, but hard-coded values should be avoided. Are there any constraints or limitations in the current implementation? Yes. Limited scalability, error handling, and navigation flow. That is something that will be modified leading into the enhancement plan. As per the enhancement plan, are there any security risks such as buffer overflows or unchecked inputs? Yes. Lacks input sanitation and login validation handling, as stated before. And so that concludes this artifact. We will move on to the My Buffer Overflow app, right? So this one, as we have here, let me make sure I get all my notes for this set up. Okay, so the intended behavior of this one is that it was designed to demonstrate how numeric overflows can occur with unsigned data types. This app simulates a condition where incrementing a variable beyond this maximum range causes it to wrap around to zero, triggering a warning or detection logic, right? So as we have here are the first thing that we can notice here is the documentation is actually pretty good. There's not a lot of commentary done or comments put into line by line, which creates a lot of clutter. There's plenty of comments put before the constructs are put into or started those different classes, and that allows to understand what is happening below without having to read line by line. And if there is any comment that is needed, right, such as we have here, there's a summary of this at numbers explanation, right? And this at numbers, what it does is, as you can see, it creates a loop, right? It starts the int I at 0, and I is less than steps, and then it increments I. If the increment is greater than 0 and the result is greater than the standard numeric limits, right, that max, minus the increment, then it just continues. The result equals the standard numeric max. If not, then it continues. It detects the overflow. If detected results equals maximum limit for type, then it shows that, right? If not, then the result it increases that increment. So what we have here, and then as we see here, it's the same. That what it does here is subtract, right? So here it is doing the exact same thing as above, but it's doing it here by, instead of it's decreasing, right? So it's a decrement that is it's here, which hence the subtract numbers. We also see that variables here are the name is well done. Then it tests the overflow. So here's the bigger the meat, if you will, here of this code. So it's test overflow and underflow. So here it's while it includes the original, this is something that comments that are going to be, this is the original assignment, right? So it detects when an overflow is happening, it's going to prevent it from happening, and it's going to return the correct value when no overflow happens. But it's also going to allow the overflow to happen in one as well in order to show. So it shows the value with the overflow and then the value without the overflow. And then it shows how much is added each step. So it shows everything that is added prior to having that overflow, and then it increases that by one step in order to have the overflow. And I will show when I run. And then it does the same thing, but from the underflow. So the same concept that we have here, just in a different manner. So as you can probably see here, there are two different. So if we have here the add numbers and the subtract numbers, these are similar enough that they could be compacted or combined in a way that actually creates a selection, if you will, into which one is going to be utilized for that particular code or for that particular run, instead of having these two different constructs created, different classes, if you will, that are making the code longer and more complex unnecessarily so, or repeated unnecessarily so. And then the same thing for test overflow and test underflow. It is fundamentally the same concept. It is doing some things that are different, but I believe that creating those different, combining those two in order for it to be a selection that then leads into whatever loop or whatever outcome it needs to be, so that it will all be combined under the same, it may be like so void test, and then it goes into the selection for test overflow and test underflow, but all within the same construct, and that would actually allow a more condensed and more efficient utilization. And then when those are completed, then it does the overflow test, right? So, and the overflows, it does it for all known characters. So as we have here, right, so those are different unsigned data types and regular data types. So this is testing the overflow for the signed integers, the unsigned integers, and for real numbers. And also the do underflow test. So just the same as above, right? So add and subtract, overflow, underflow, and then the overflow testing, underflow testing. These are all ones that could be combined in order to ultimately create an easier way of having this. And then we get into the main, right, which literally just calls, and then it just does the overflow test, does the underflow test. Let me go ahead and run this. No, that's not. This may not. That's an issue. Let me go ahead and open it in a way that allows me. Please excuse me about this. I'll bring it back so that it shows in the screen. I'm just having some issues. The program that I opened just had the code in itself. It didn't actually have the program completely so that I could run it. So I'm getting the actual program to run it. All right, so here we go. And as we run it, we can see here, right? So it conducts that overflow tests, right? So adding numbers without overflow, 0, and adding by 25, and then that's the number of steps that it was required, 125. And numbers with overflow, so overflow is detected, and then it creates that different number. And it does the same here, right? So overflow detected, and then the same concept for the underflow test. So all of this could definitely be done in a way and can be corrected. This artifact is measuring against algorithms and data structures, right? So obviously, I will talk about it more in a little bit, but it is creating some data structures that actually allows to combine all of this in a way that is easier to implement and easier for the code and less space consuming. So as we see here, let me close all this, right? So the current issues that it has is that the overflow detection logic is basic and not extensible for broader buffer or numeric overflow vulnerabilities. There is minimal input/output interaction for usability or education. The program lacks user-friendly messages or clear output formats. There's no structured login or modularity for reuse or testing. While it successfully demonstrates the concept, it does so with hard-coded values and lacks flexibility. In the code review here, I explain how the overflow is triggered and how the program checks for it. But I plan to improve the code for usability, maintainability, and educational value. The enhancement plan is refactor the overflow detection, so move the logic into a reusable function with parameters, so allow testing for multiple numeric types or ranges. Add user input, so prompt the user to enter starting value and increment count, which and display results dynamically rather than through fixed values. So as we have here, obviously those loops create fixed values, so I want to change that and make it in a way that is more interactive with the user and the reusability of it more, improve the reusability. Improve output, so format the console output with clear messages and better feedback. It was pretty cluttered when we looked at it, right? So as we can see here, this is a pretty cluttered console output, so that needs to be modified. Implement logging and error handling, so log when overflow occurs and what values triggered it. Include exit codes or warnings if unexpected input is detected. And add modularity, which encapsulate the core logic and functions for potential reuse or testing. And ultimately, what this enhances is the functionality. It enables input-based testing and general use cases. Educational value, so it improves clarity of overflow concept for new programmers. Code structure, it makes logic reusable, testable, and maintainable. And the user experience provides clear output and interaction. So does the code completely incorrectly implement the design? Yes, it does implement the design. Conform to any pertinent coding standards? Yes, it does have good C++ style, and it actually is well documented. Can any code be replaced by calls to external reusable components or library functions? Yes, uses STL and templates appropriately. Is storage use efficient? While I say here, I put here as I was answering this, yes, I believe so. I believe that the way that it is handled, because of the way of it has specific fixed values, yeah, I guess the space is utilized correctly. But as we make this, increase the scalability and reusability of this artifact, I believe that we really are going to see a better utilization of space. Storage use. Is the code clearly and adequately documented with an overview and with comments for data declarations and code sections? Yes, I was pleasantly surprised to see here that my documentation of this and the documentation in this artifact is well done. Is the code sufficiently modular? Is pretty generic, yes. Are there any constraints or limitations in the current implementation? So there are some constraints, which is the fact that there are fixed values, and that is something that needs to be changed. Is also like there are fixed particular types that are going to be used. So it's going to run one way, and that's this specific way. So the flexibility of the code is not so flexible. So that is something that is going to be changed as we enhance this. Are there any security risks such as buffer overflow or unchecked inputs? No buffer overflows due to logic validation, but does require compiler flags. Okay, and that ultimately finishes this one, and we will move on again to database helper. Open it. Here we go. We will go here. All right. All right, so as we have here, this is part of the app. Let me close this so that we can actually see it better. Yep. I guess this is as much as it's going to see. Let me remove this out of the way. Okay, so what we have here is the database helper, and this is part of the third enhancement of an artifact. And this one is focused on databases, right? So this, as it is the one database helper that is utilizing the information from the user and the login and the main activity and login, and then it comes here, the user is able to input their data, weight and date, and tracks that over time, and is also able to grab that information associated and link to a particular account and then show it to the user. Those are things that should be happening in this app. So the intended behavior is that database helper.java serves as the primary class for registering and authenticating users, inserting weight entries tied to a specific user, retrieving those entries for a display in a table, and managing SQLite database schema and connections reliably. As we can see here, let me get my database helper. All right, so what we have here is the strings, right? So we have the database names, weight tracking app database. We have the database version. We have the user of the table, users, the username and password. This is a table, right, that holds that particular account because this is what's going to be linked to the actual data. And then we have here the weight table, weight entries, date, weight. What we have here is the database helper, right? It creates that. So database name, database version, this is all necessary for that. But on create, then it creates that table and user table, which has the column with the username connected to a text primary key. Let's see if this. And then the column password, which also connected to the text, right? So this is all connected to the information that is gathered at the beginning when the account is created. It creates the weight entry table, right? So create the table, weight table, which has the column with the date and the column with the weight. And then on upgrade, this is if the tables already exist. So it drops the table, drop table if exists, and then the user table and the weight table is all again, right? So it's not created again, it's not creating another table, it actually continues to update that table. And this is to create table again. right? So as we have here, called when database needs to be upgraded, the implementation should use this method to drop tables, add tables, or do anything else. It needs to upgrade to the new schema. The SQLite alter table documentation, right, can be found there, which is the alter table is what's going to be utilized. And then we insert the user, and it takes all that information, the string username, it takes all that information from the main activity, login activity, and data display activity into the database helper. And here's where it holds the username and password for that user table. And then it also checks that check user, right? So check the username and password as it connects to the particular table. These are the wait entry table methods, right? So this is where we insert the wait entry, get all the wait entries, right? So select from that table to visualize, delete a wait entry, and update, right? So if something needs to be changed. As we can see, this is pretty basic. And this is something that will be modified. We will add a little bit more to make it more robust, and potentially add some values that can be modified here to have the database be a little bit more robust and be able to handle more data if needed, available to the user if needed. So the current issues that we found in this behavior is that the class may store users and data but lacks strong relational binding between users and their wait entries. Wait and date inputs are not correctly linked or queried per user session. Potential for SQL injection if raw queries are not parameterized. And there's limited error checking or validation on input data, which is as we saw here as we were looking to check user, there's not a lot of error checking and input checking. The file manages the database operations such as inserting users, logging in, and inserting wait entries. It mostly works, but it doesn't establish a strong connection between logged in user and their wait entries. It's also not reached because of the issues within the login activity, right? That it doesn't actually connect to the data display activity. Additionally, security and data validation could be improved. I will improve how user sessions are tied to the data and add proper error handling and query security. Specifically here in the check user, just verifying the information that is being inputted and connecting back to make sure, right? And this is something that is going to be double, triple checked, as login activity is also going to have a method of checking that no data is actually being put in here that's going to create access. And when values are being inputted into the table, having some verification here to ensure that there's no SQL injection occurring. The enhancement plan, it is establish a user to entry relationship. So add user ID foreign key to the wait entry table. Ensure wait entries are inserted with this user ID after login. Improve input validation, so validate that wait is numeric and date format is correct before insertion. Secure queries, replace any raw SQL with parameterized queries to avoid injection risks. Improve data retrieval, so add a method to get all wait entries for the logged in user using their ID. Return a cursor or list to be shown in the table view. And error handling, add try/catch blocks around all database operations, log failures, and returns Boolean or result codes for better UI feedback. Ultimately, what this enhances is data security, which prevents SQL injections through parameterized queries. User personalization ensures that each user sees only their data, and stability, which adds input validation and error handling. Functionality, which makes the user wait tracking reliable for the app's core purpose. And then as we see here that, look at what I put here. So this looks again as well into the design and evaluate of computing solutions that solve a given problem and demonstrate an ability to use well-founded and innovative techniques, skills, and tools in computer practices. And in a way, it also using to secure coding, right? So ensuring that we are using the best secure practices to to create a secure app and a reliable app in its usage. Let me go into the code review checklist to make sure that I'm answering those pertinent questions. Okay. Does the code completely incorrectly implement the design? In a way, in a sense, the database estimate and section insertions work in it as we have no way right now of verifying that the database estimate works as intended, right? So while it looks like there is that all the necessary information is put in here, since the app doesn't actually reach this, we do not know that this is working as intended. Is the code well structured, consistent in style, and consistently formatted? Partly, right? So there is, while it is creating, right, it has the upgrade, the insert, the edit, the delete, here, the check user and all that stuff. It does have some secure issues here and some stuff that could be combined in order to ensure the right usability. Let's see. There is some major repeated logic seen here, right? So especially on create here, and when we have on upgrade, this is create tables again. I want to verify this to make sure that this is well utilized. Are symbolics used rather than magic number, constants, or strings? Partial use of constants. Further improvements needed. The documentation exists but could be expanded for better clarity. Yes, there's a lot of there is some documentation added here, but I am an advocate of having a little bit more documentation, not line by line, but potentially before starting any sort of big change, just explaining what this major change would entail prior to, and then dropping some of the information that is unneeded within it so that the code just stands on its own, but there's a summary beforehand. And do this for each and every one, and for all these, the variables are pretty much self-explanatory, so not a lot needs to be done here, but if they are pertaining to a particular use, then document that. Can any modules be reused? Insert weight and get all data can be reused. Are all data structures and variables used efficiently? There is no way to actually, there's no way right now to verify all of this, at least on its own, because this is not, let me see. This is not going to allow me. Okay, never mind. Okay, and then are there any security risks such as buffer overflow or unchecked inputs? There is some risk if invalid data is written, and input validation should be added, which is something that we will definitely be doing here in order to create a database that is more robust. We would like to add more values to make it a little bit more scalable and also more secure by doing checking for SQL injection, and also verifying for data input, and also verifying account linkage, right, and the account that is being checked. All right, so this concludes the code review for CS499. My name is Jorge Bermudez, and thank you for listening in.